right, ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between, it is Debate Sensei. This is limited preparation edition where we talk about topics relevant to competitive limited preparation debate, college level mainly. But with me, we got Tim from San Diego State
University.
University.
Of San Diego.
And Matt is he's got a llama convention. He's a little too enthusiastic about those llamas for my liking.
I've meant to talk to him about that. Like, there's a line.
Yeah.
But he's flirting with that line. And who are you when you're not running?
All right. I am Jared Kubicka-Miller. I am your professor of communications and debate coach. All right.
So
we're going to be doing IPDA topic selection. We take 5 topics. Oh, where did I get these topics from? I could get that for you real quick.
Was this the warm-up 2022?
Is that what it is? No, I think this was DVC, the DVC thing. This is the gold round from 2022 DVC thing. I think that would be coming up. We are recording this early, but this will be posted on mid-November, which is right where the DVC thing is as a tournament, I believe. All right. So what we like doing in this situation is we flip a coin, whichever way it lands, that determines whether or not one side is affirmative, the other side is negative. And then we go through the topics from this round, and we go through the striking process, and we talk about each one as we go. All right.
All right.
You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we always do heads, your aff, tails, your neg.
Sounds good.
Okay. Boom. Your aff.
All right.
Okay.
So you go ahead and strike first.
I'm striking first. Okay, now I got to look at this as the neg. A lot of students don't do that, right? They just like whatever the topic is, and do I know it or do I not? And they go, no, you gotta look at it after you know what side you're on. Okay. Okay, I'm going to start with this one here.
Yeah. You want to choose on the negative side.
Yeah. So I think my reasoning is pretty clear. I don't think there's really good evidence that I could go. It's not that you can't make economic evidence or use economic evidence for it. But I just don't think it would be enough in the end. To be like where I see that debate going is a fight over whether or not incremental change is enough. You know what I mean? It's like if it really is that bad, then you should ask for revolutionary change right now. Like on the negative, that would be, I don't know. I'm thinking that I'd be trying to push you into that burden, and I don't know if I can do that. I think that you're like, I'm just saying that they're bad. Don't.
Yeah, I think like more harm than good doesn't have to be like are significantly more harmful than they are good.
Yeah,
I can just be like, 51%, and now it's just a factor. I'm going to pile on all the all the bads. Like it's not a great topic, I think, for you to be on, just because there's just such abundant evidence to the other side. And that said, if I did find myself on the negative side, I think you've got a lot of pragmatism there, where it's like, okay, here's all of this damage to the environment, and yet every human function at this moment in time necessitates fossil fuels, and every point of accomplishment and good thing that's happened up to this point is also as a result of fossil fuels. Like every baby in an ambulance has gotten there by fossil fuels, right? Like you can just take any example. So I think you can say like maybe will eventually do more harm,
right?
Maybe how I would reposition that and say like, at this moment in time, the harms do not outweigh the goods. Like if we were to stop using fossil fuels tomorrow, those harms would outweigh any benefits derived from it. So like, let's stop talking about the future harms of fossil fuels and let's talk about it just right this second. And I think that's where you might have a little bit more of a leg to stand on the neg.
Right, and that's exactly where I thought it was going, because when I said it's like you have to advocate for, if it's that bad, then stopping it right now should be.
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and so you see how we kind of ended up there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Again,
On the affirmative, pretty straightforward. Take all of the various emissions issues and Google the word climate change, and you've got some stuff to work with. So fairly easy one. All right.
Yeah.
I will next strike. This is actually a pretty good topic. So I will say I actually like all of these topics. I would be down to debate any of these, but this is the one that I would strike next. And it's because I feel like it's too mushy. I would have a hard time really, pegging down like this is what it means to be feared. This is what it means to be liked. Or excuse me, liked, and then examples. I feel like is the best, or the immediate place my brain goes of like these are examples of, nations that have a like fear dominant relationship versus an allyship or some kind of like mutual respect and support. By the way, I don't know if I'm really choppy there. So on the affirmative, I just don't know that I would have a ton to work with of like allies that don't fear each other. I think you probably couldn't find too many examples. Like I think that there's still a lot of like mutual fear amongst alliances. And then I think kind of like a silly word debate in circles a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm struggling how to prepare on the neg for this. Man, being liked is preferable to being feared. So I'm going for the feared side.
Yeah.
Or both. It's like either way is fine with me. It's like it always sucks. Preferable to being feared. Oh, looks like my signal's going out now. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh no. Okay. Preferably. So if you're, like the thing is, I don't know. That one is so ambiguous that I think that you might actually get a little bit of leverage on the affirmative because you could really focus in on one particular like plan text.
Yeah, I think you could also say that like it's very infrequent that wars start from adversaries that like each other and then secretly like allies that like each other and secretly stab each other in the back.
Yeah.
And so like, fear tends to be the first. Fear leads to hate and hate leads to the dark side. Like it's that start to go down, and just give like any example of conflict had a healthy dose of fear preceding it. And so I can say like if make the criteria something like peace or stability or something, and just say that all of the opposites tend to come from a place of fear. So that's probably where I would go, but I still just don't feel like I've got a lot of great examples that I can run with, or, even to the contrary, like a lot of good counter examples of like, this is where being liked is so great. Like, do they like us, or are we allies with people because they're afraid to cross us? Like, right. Or our countries, just afraid of conflict more than they are happy with allyship.
Yeah. Like, and you have the ability. Yeah. So you have the ability to question whether or not alliances mean fear or being liked, right? It doesn't inherently mean that.
Yeah. All right. What would you strike next?
Okay. This one's going to take me a little bit because I'm like, can I back you into a topic you don't want to do?
No, I think it's actually a little easier to be on the affirmative for this one, but there's definitely one that you would not want to be on the negative for, or there's one that I definitely didn't want to be in the negative for.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for this one, the Ticketmaster one.
Oh, boo! I really wanted to debate that one.
Yeah,
but yes, that one you don't want to be on the negative side of. That was my last place. So
being on the negative on that one is a little.
Just having paid for concert tickets, it is such a like visceral pain, especially when you're really stoked and like found a great price ticket, like an event you're really stoked to go to, and then you get down to the end and it's like 40% fees. Like, and they don't try and hide it. They don't wrap it up and whatever. It's just like, yeah. And in order to get this $200 ticket, you're going to pay us $80 just so you can have it. That's what you get. Like, that's evil. That's false advertising. Like, I think you've just got such a good villain that it's just so easy to beat up. Like, no one loves Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster is awful, and everyone just wants to kneecap them. But they're just like in a position of power. And so I think anytime that your story has a very easy villain that no one really wants to back, I think that makes for a pretty solid AF setup.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're kind of burning through these. We're going to have to talk about it.
That said, though, antitrust, if I were on your side, I would argue that antitrust is not the way to go about breaking them up. Like there exists, because antitrust is implying that they have a monopoly on the market. StubHub and Vivid Seats and SeatGeek, and like there are plenty of other tools for dispersing tickets. Now those things might be secondhand ticket resellers, but I don't think that Ticketmaster has like a complete stranglehold on firsthand tickets. I think you can sell tickets through assorted channels other than them. So at least as far as I know, like I don't think that they're the only primary ticket seller.
Yeah. So as I'm looking at this topic, I'm thinking about what the research might look like. And in the end, like, so I'm thinking to myself, do I think that I'm going to find really good evidence that Ticketmaster doesn't have a monopoly? And so I have to sort of guess on that factoid that you were talking about that we don't necessarily know. And I'm like, I'm not sure. I really don't. You know what I mean? It's like, because that one like bit right there, like, how do they have so much power if it's not some sort of just anti-competitive situation? But is there, you're saying that there's ways to enforce competitiveness other than antitrust laws?
I would say like the federal government should take action. So I think like all of my harms of like Ticketmaster is gouging and Ticketmaster hurts artists and all these bad things can be addressed with a plan other than antitrust enforcement. It can be, like from the like recording studios or from record record labels can come after them, or artists individually. Like the federal government, it doesn't need to be the one to break them up. Like the industry has enough capability, is maybe the con, like the neg ground that I would go for. And just say like the US government trying to break them, like the US government wouldn't win, right? Like the federal government barely won against Microsoft. And that is an organization that is way more sophisticated with way better legal and like much more diversification than Ticketmaster. But like they won't likely win against Ticketmaster.
Okay, now I'm looking up the American Antitrust Institute, and they're describing it as a monopoly on primary ticketing.
Okay, so StubHub and SeatGeek and all those are only secondary? Are those only reselling?
Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, Live Nation prioritizes the venues they own and operate at the expense of independent venues. Yeah, see, I've heard, I'm not an expert on Ticketmaster, so that's one reason why I would strike this, right? I don't know these particular facts, but from what little I've heard, it has not been good, and I don't want to be on that side where I don't know a lot and I already feel like I'm behind.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So I didn't realize that they have that strangle. That doesn't make a lot of sense, because you think like any venue could have their own thing. Like artists just go to different places. Like why is it that just in that single segment? Like normally there's some legal thing, like, or some like regulation in place that makes way for a monopoly, and that's how companies are able to capitalize on it. But it's not that there's like a shortage of venues or a shortage of ticket, platforms, or a shortage of artists. Like each of those things should be able, I would think, to be able to solve that themselves. So I wonder why it is they've been able to corner that market so well.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I do remember fairly recently, like when it like Ticketmaster basically melted down for a bit because of Taylor Swift
tickets.
Yeah, Taylor Swift tickets just completely demolished it, and so just that kind of is not only harms evidence, but it's evidence of the monopoly, right? Because if we're like, I can't get tickets, it's like, well, there's a sign that it's like the competition isn't taking care of it, right? If you can't get the tickets somewhere, then that means that there's somebody's controlling all aspects of that.
Yeah, I would think that would be like a pretty good instance where like an artist that has that much power, like the tickets will be purchased one way or another. Like that would be a good opportunity to like circumvent Ticketmaster, like go through a different channel for ticketing. Like that could have been one avenue to do it, especially when Taylor Swift went so far out of her way to try and make it accessible and things. Like she advertised like having the like specialty sign up fans list or whatever, so you could get like $60 tickets. And then inevitably they immediately started going for like 800, but like the intent was there to try and make it more accessible. So I don't know. That seems like that could have been an opportunity. Interesting, worth reading more. So good point on that side from a debate perspective when not to choose a topic.
Yeah.
All right, then the next one that I will strike, so this sets up the final topic that we've actually got, is this guy.
Yep. Oh.
So I only put this one because I don't know exactly what it would mean. I feel like as the affirmative, I've got to like define some stuff pretty well, and I feel like tactically there's a lot of landmines that I could step on. Like if I don't do a good, like there's just a lot of T ground. If I don't define workers right or seizing the means right or what the means of productions are, I feel like I very easily break the metaphor because it's like a well understood, well worn metaphor that like comes up a lot. But if I don't define everything quite right, that seems like I'm, being non-topical. But if I did have to argue it, like I'm still probably on the right side of it, right? Like I can paint you're definitely not on the right side of this one. To be like, no, the workers should know their place. So like I can sort of like paint the picture, but it's like, okay, Amazon employees will form a mass union to coup power out of Bezos's hands or something. Like I don't know what that would look like. Like I'm trying to think, what the actual plan mechanism would be.
Yeah. Like, and so I'm kind of glad, I was also a little, hesitant if I wanted you to give you the opportunity to be the affirmative on this one. And the main reason is because you have so much latitude to really interpret things and like put it into effect. I mean, hell, I think our project in a sense is us seizing the means of production, like through video production, right?
Sure.
And so like it's, but I don't think anyone else would look at it that way because like we filed an LLC and like we're like paying taxes and so like and so I think that the latitude that you have on the affirmative, I was definitely a little concerned about, but on the negative, I still have this criticism that I would like to put a little bit of time and effort into flushing out and seeing how it would stick, which would be that it really doesn't matter if this sentiment is right. Like it has not yielded what the good stuff it's supposed to yield. We should abandon this as a rallying cry. That it just muddies up the waters too much. I don't know how much I want to invest in any 100-plus-year-old philosophy written by some German at some it's like I think that there's all it's really done is help to divide people into different camps, and it hasn't really improved anything for anybody. And so there's like for real change, there needs to be something a little bit more fundamental and humane, not economics based.
So are you arguing? So I think like you can probably more easily map it to like unions. Like this is like the rallying cry of unions, and that would maybe be a likely path that I would take from a plan perspective. It can probably get away with being topical. I think I could maybe win that T fight of saying like workers should unionize. But is your contention that unionizing is not seizing the means of production?
I would say that on both levels. I'm saying that this rallying cry is used by people to obtain power, and so union bosses, they do make lives better for people, but they oftentimes do it in really underhanded, completely illegal and in horrible ways, right? And then that becomes the trope under which like we get the benefits from our jobs. And now that they have an enemy and I have to follow that enemy because we are using the same rallying cry, I think we should abandon that. I don't think we because it's not working.
Okay. I think that's maybe an interesting avenue to go. Like just because of the nature of scale, like We don't live in like a hunter-gatherer economy where like, yeah, everyone can grow their own berries. Like, nah, in order to keep billions of people alive, there has to be organization and structure and order that comes from things that like means smaller leadership than execution or something like that.
Yeah. It's more of a rejection of this. It's kind of like, you have to embrace this rallying cry. I'm like, fuck that. Like, maybe I don't care. I'm part of a union and I'll vote, but I'm not outspoken about it or anything like that. It's like I gain from the benefits of it, but I think that some of the people in there are doing it as a stepping stone for more powerful positions. Like all these things do is create bureaucracies for people to acquire power.
Okay.
It doesn't equal. Yeah. So
I think if I defined means of production as just capital, I think that perhaps simplifies it. Yeah. Like, yes, you're right. It is still a rallying cry to move someone to something. But I don't think that like that, I'm not swayed that is like a singular reason to patently reject it. Like philosophies move lots of people to take action. Like just because it encourages people, like I don't think that this one is uniquely bad. I think it has been used duplicitously for a long time, but I don't think that means that it is always necessarily bad. And if we were to, make it about just seizing capital, then like workers should be paid a shit ton more. Like that's definitely going to be a hard fought tea fight, but I don't know that I'm going to lose if I win tea. I don't think I'm losing that round, right? Like if I can convince that like workers should, make a ton more from the companies that produce stuff, like, yeah, I'm probably going to win that round.
Yeah. All right.
I think the like higher order of like this as a philosophy is overused probably is a more interesting one. All right, cool. So that means our final topic. I actually didn't really want to debate this one on the affirmative. I had it kind of lower down my list.
But that's what I was thinking. I'm like, ooh, I bet you anything Tim wants to debate Ticketmaster. He probably doesn't want to debate means of production.
Yeah.
So I could force him to choose between two topics he doesn't like.
Good strategy. Yeah. This was low on my list.
Yeah.
So the United States federal government should significantly increase its use of artificial intelligence in law enforcement. I think that there can be. So here's where I would go. Clerical work, filing stuff, organization, querying things, research, all of that kind of stuff can be like 100x, 1000x more efficient through artificial intelligence. And that is still within law enforcement. So like it'd still be like FBI should use AI to like better organize its data, its querying, its like research for evidence, its legal process of like discovery or whatever. And I can make the argument that like courts are crazy backed up. People wait years in jail without ever even getting to trial because just the process takes too long. And so it is the clerical issue of the bureaucratic beast that is law enforcement, like federal law enforcement. That is what needs to be improved through AI. And then I hopefully never have to get into issues of like body cams or like warrior drones or like Terminator cops or whatever. I can just talk about like the boring stuff that AI is good at, that humans suck at, that makes life bad for people in the law enforcement process.
You said that, and like I don't want to help the affirmative, but luckily we're not actually going to debate this. The sexual assault kit backlog.
Sure.
If you just
that's a really good example.
Yeah, like we should use AI to process those.
Yeah.
Because like all the data is there, you know what I mean? It's like it's either been collected or it's not. And
like the number of human inputs necessary along that process, that is what is broken about the system. Like the information's there, but we just don't have the like person power to do it. Great, we've got the computer power to do
it. I'm the type of jerk that would focus entirely on sexual assault kits and only on sexual assault kits.
No, that's a good
my
one.
case would be,
That's I like that a lot, because I think as soon as I start opening it up to lots of examples, and then you can start getting like, oh well, but AI makes mistakes and it makes like catastrophic ones or whatever. But yeah, I like the specificity of like, this is what we're going for. Like here are all the very unique specific harms. I like that case a lot.
Yeah, and it identifying the genealogy of the attacker, like using AI DNA
Yeah, I can map
technology.
things.
Yeah, like super super quick. Okay,
But
so
how are
I
you
didn't
gonna
think about
neg
that one.
that?
Yeah. Well, you still got to go with the garbage in, garbage out approach, especially at this stage in AI. So the amount of so any sort of AI technology, uses machine learning, which means that you put in a bunch of data and it starts learning to identify certain markers. Now, if
Mhm.
a lot of those markers, DNA or otherwise, turn out to be, you know, um, from specific ethnicities, then you start having a problem, right? Or like one of the examples is that they were trying to, what was it? They're trying to detect cancer, and um, they're putting like rulers next to freckles or moles and things like that, and taking lots of pictures. And so the machine learned that um, rulers were malignant. That's the conclusion it came to. All right. So that that type, like, you got to remember what artificial intelligence is and what it's not. Artificial intelligence is not critical thinking. It's
Yeah.
all right. It's not that sort of human level stuff, and so it still has those drawbacks. And so the only way that you know that this thing will work is if you know that the DNA that's been put into it is equitable, and we
Mm.
don't know that. I don't know what DNA you're like matching this up against, right? It's like and so and it's and so the identifying markers and things like that could lead to uh, false positives in those regards,
Mm.
you know. And so I do think that the rape kit case would make that harder. Um, but that's still my approach.
I
Is the
wonder. I think I would want to know. I would spend my research time understanding specifically what the obstacles are. Like, what are the bumps in the road that are causing such an incredibly long road? Like, why is it such an interminable process to get these things
yeah
processed? And like, what is taking so long on it? And if there are areas where humans can do things better than or excuse me, where machines can do things better than humans with like lots and lots of good, reliable, um, you know, backing to it. For example, scanning. So scanning text, like this was a one common, like very, very common use, probably one of the earlier uses that is still artificial intelligence, but it's recognizing human handwriting and turning that into digitizable documents.
hmm
So taking a nurse's handwritten intake form, scanning that, turning that into searchable, queryable, real text. I would say that alone is an instance of AI. If we currently are having humans transcribe it because we're saying like, oh, but it's so important, I think I can win on the argument that like an artificial intelligence scanning tool is less fallible than a human eyeball and also millions of times faster
okay
at able to transcribe. So I would say like I would go for something stupid like AI for really basic functions so that it doesn't start getting too much power in the way of like making decisions around like this is this or this is that. Like I think making innocent guilty calls probably shouldn't fall to machines yet. Like if it's just presenting this kind of evidence, um, that's tough. I think you probably do have on the neg though that like any large language model, I guess like it doesn't have to be a language model though. Like AI can come in a number of forms, but any large data set for a neural network has to be tested a ton. And
yeah
so I probably don't gain a lot of solvency where it's like in order just to implement this, it's going to take a couple of years probably of R&D. Now,
right
maybe I can say if the backlog is several years, if I cut it from 5 years to two, that's already still, a big leap. But you probably could, pin me down on a lot of those, like, yeah, but can you really actually cut it down that much? Or like being able to stick me to like, what harms are you solving by doing it 3 years faster? Like
yeah
you're not doing it tomorrow, you're not doing it next month. It still takes years to implement my plan
I
with
mean, I think the strategy I'd be using on that one is kind of solvency based. It might have a bit more of an edge to it, and it's still the garbage in, garbage out. But this one is that like police arrests are not going to, like, all you're doing is processing racist stopping faster. You know what I mean? It's like that doesn't solve those issues. And not only that, but petty criminals that might might get off because of the backlog, and we were like, we're not going to deal with this, are now they're processed. And so congratulations, we don't have this backlog anymore. You haven't increased justice at all, right? And so if your measure is like, oh, paperwork is gone, it's kind of like, yeah, but like all that paperwork was what shouldn't have been filed in the first place. Those were unjust stops in the first place. And so now you start talking about how AI it starts getting into like a masking position. Really, it does. You know what I mean? But I think it's a good one. I think it's
yeah, and you could probably say just like the way that I parametricize the topic down doesn't solve for the far more significant harms amongst law enforcement.
Right.
I will note on this one, the majority of I'm certainly not going to say all, but I will say the majority of the issues that people take with law enforcement, with like policing and how it's executed, is not at the federal level. Like it's not the FBI that is being protested all that often. I'm sure they still have plenty of egregious crimes. But it is typically your city, state, and county law enforcement that are the ones that are executed, because they're much bigger, right? Like there just are not that many FBI agents compared to how many, like sheriffs there are around the country, or, city police department officials, or state troopers or whatever. So you take all of those bodies together, there's just significantly more. And the federal government can't mandate that level. The federal government can't make a change to a sheriff's department. Now it can do things like, oh, we'll withhold funding if you don't, blah, 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 but it can't increase the use of AI at the local level. So that does also kind of narrow the number of, harms that I can even potentially solve.
Yeah, I think now the sexual assault kit, now I'm questioning whether or not that's even topical.
It's a felony. It's a federal crime, right?
Well, okay. I mean,
doesn't that mean that the federal government is like involved in processing it?
No. I mean, just because something's a felony, it could be, it doesn't. It'd have to be a federal offense, which are, I don't know. I thought, because like this one's talking about how like Oakland Police Department have developed a speedier, like if Oakland Police Department is processing sexual assault kits, like that implies that it's not a federal issue.
Okay, so then like agent specification, like you probably went on that some kind of a pick, like specific procedure like that.
And now you start thinking about like what are federal offenses, and those are the only ones that would be topical to use more AI.
Yes, it would be like tax evasion or like wire fraud or something like that.
Kidnapping is a federal
immigration.
Offense. Yeah.
Wait a second. Okay, so kidnapping is a federal offense, but sexual assault is not?
Yeah. Kidnapping was made a federal offense because of like the Lindenberg baby. They made it into a federal offense. I hope I'm getting that right. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope somebody corrects me. All right, that's what I hope.
Okay, but yeah, immigration. So that could get really messy. But just trying to pull up those examples.
Yeah. All right. Hey, so not bad. We got good stuff going on here.
Way to go, DBC.
All right. Excellent. So that is our time, everyone. It's Tim and Jared for DebateSensei. We'll be seeing you later.